Welcome to this week's edition of the Comic Hero Show. I'm your host, Victor Nunley, and I am the Comic Hero. You're probably wondering, Vic, what's up with that shirt you're wearing? Well, this is another Christmas shirt. Let me explain what this means. Okay, now as you can see, right here is the baby Jesus, and then right above it is the bright morning star that the three kings saw right after Jesus was born. So, I mean, I'm not one to say that I know. I mean, me and my heart of hearts understands that Jesus is the reason for the season. You know, Santa Claus was just something that just came along, well, centuries later. But anyway, I have a lot to talk about. Not a lot to talk, and not a lot of time to do it. So, ladies and gentlemen, may the ranting begin. The first thing I want to talk about is the Saints losing 27-16 against the St. Louis Rams this past Sunday, and it was awful. I mean, this is, I guess it's a trend that's been continuing off and on during the season, where the Saints not playing as well as on the road as they usually do at home, and of course the game was in St. Louis. A lot of miscues were made both offensively and defensively, and Garrett Hartley missed 4 field goals. The Saints would have had 28 points instead of 16 had he not missed them. And it was announced a few days ago that the Saints released him after being there for several years. I have mixed feelings about that, only because, yeah, he misses field goals. He's human. But I know what kind of coach Sean Payton is. He's all about consistency. And if a player is being inconsistent, then he's either going to bench him or he's going to cut him. And that's what he did. But I need to remind you all that about the good things that he has done. He kicked the game-tying field goal in an NFC Championship game against the Vikings back in the 2009 season, and the game-winning field goal later on that sent them to the Super Bowl, which they won, by the way. Who that, baby? But Garrett Hartley, if you're watching this, or if you're related to Garrett Hartley and you're watching this, all I have to say is I'm not mad at you. The entire Saints Nation may be mad at you. The coaching staff might be mad at you. The organization, the front office, even Mickey Loomis and Tom Benson might be, but I'm not. You did a great job. I don't care what anybody says, and I just hope somewhere down the line you get picked up by another team. Because you deserve to. If there's anyone that needs some kind of vindication after all this, it's you. So good luck, Garrett. All right, next thing I want to talk about is Avengers Arena. It's the series just ended with issue number 18, and in this issue, now let me tell you first off before I tell you what about how it ended. In his book, this longtime villain of the X-Men named Arcade, well, he decides he wants to kidnap all the recruits at the Avengers Academy. Of course, co-founded by Professor Hank Pym, who also, well, he doesn't go by anything anymore. He just goes by Hank Pym. He used to go by different names: Ant-Man, Giant Man, Goliath, Yellow Jacket. But now he's just Professor Hank Pym. And what recently happened is that Arcade kidnapped all of them, and he left them stranded all on this island. And he pretty much put them in he just wanted them to fight each other and and not just fight each other. I mean, fight each other to the death. And there were tempers flared, people died. Not everybody died, by the way. I mean, I think there were more people that lived than there were died in that entire series. X-23 was one of those that lived, and of course, really, although she nearly died because of this radiation that came from this other character named Hazmat, who, by the way, wasn't one of the characters who died, but one of her powers is she could is radiation manipulation, and she has to wear a suit in order not to accidentally kill anybody. But she ended up expelling every ounce of the radiation that ravaged her body, and now she's just a regular human being. There were others who weren't so lucky, like her boyfriend Metal, whose entire skeletal system is made of some kind of made of mercury. I was thinking of some kind of metal, but it was mercury, meaning he can't touch anybody, or he can't touch a regular person. He can touch Hazmat. I mean, Hazmat didn't really have an effect on him at all, but he was one of the students at Avengers Academy that died in that one. And there were some other characters that were hiding skeletons in the closet. And Arcade, he didn't get stopped. However, he kind of hightailed it out of there after one of the other students found out the truth, and he just bailed. So yeah. Okay. That's all I want to talk about. So let's get to the comics I bought today. Up first are 3 issues of Uncanny X-Force. I say 3 because that's one of the few books that I haven't, that off and on I've been reading. I mean, I still collected, but with me being a college student, I can't buy every one that I want to buy every week. So I try to make do where I can. But anyway, what's going on with this X-Force team? Keep in mind there are 2. Remember, there are 2 of them. Is that they're going up against a classic X-Men villain named Cassandra Nova, who pretty much wants to destroy Los Angeles. So the issues I bought are number 13, number 14, and number 15. Now, let me tell you something about this X-Force team. They come from different walks of life. Not all of them were always X-Men. As a matter of fact, only 3 of them have actually been X-Men, and those 3 are Psylocke, Storm, and Bishop. Now, Bishop, he's a mutant from the future who has either helped the X-Men on certain missions, or has to been stopped by the X-Men on certain missions. And another member who hasn't been a member of the X-Men before is Puck, who of course was a longtime member of the Canadian mutant team called Alpha Flight. And then another member is former Mojo World citizen Spiral, who has about 6 arms. And then lastly is Cluster, who is a one thing about Cluster. Cluster was actually separated. It used to be one person. It used to be this mutant who was a former member of the Uncanny X-Force team called Phantom X. And it was 3 people. It was Phantom X, Cluster, and Weapon 13. And Well, she's pretty much gone down on her own. She's now a member of X Force. Okay, up next is Uncanny X-Men number 15.IHN. Now, the IHN stands for Humanity, meaning it's a story arc. I mean, meaning this issue is a tie-in with the Inhumanity miniseries, which I've yet to read. As soon as I get to it, I will let you. I'll keep you all up to speed as to what's going on. But pretty much the X-Men encounter. I what I believe happens in this one is that the X-Men are going up against. They encounter some humans who are not so human anymore, who are doused with the Terrigen mist, which make humans, which make the Inhumans inhuman. Up next is Wolverine, the X-Men number 39, and this is, of course, this pretty much talks about the whole. I think we this it's continuing the aftermath of Battle of the Atom. I mean, some newer students have joined the academy, but then Shield, but then Wolverine's infiltrating Shield because he's pretty upset with him right now, and Cyclops has actually gotten the task to stop him. Although Shield really doesn't like his group of X-Men. So what happens is there's some aliens that meanwhile he goes to infiltrate Shield. Meanwhile, back at the Jean Grey school, some aliens have pretty much um, invaded the school and are placing all the student mutants there, held them captive. All right, up next is Thor: God of Thunder number 16. This is part 4 of the Accursed. Now, keep in mind, um, sorry, I was trying to remember the guy's name that Thor is going up against, but Thor and a whole bunch of other individuals from different realms are going to stop this imprisoned, this formerly incarcerated dark elf, who is taking the lives of just about all the dark elves and just about anybody else that lives in Svartheim. Everything was going well, although at first Thor and those other people couldn't get along very well because, well, they, different realms, different walks of life, and well, but then they finally gelled and they finally worked as a team. But then one of them was killed, and then this guy ends up inviting a frost giant. Now let me remind you what frost giants are. In the first Thor movie, after they crossed the Rainbow Bridge, there was those guys they went up against. Those are frost giants. All right, up next are Deadpool numbers 20 and 21. These are now Deadpool is such a great book. They're both written by Brian Posehn and Jerry Duggan, who are great artists. I mean, great writers. Excuse me. Of course, for all of you know, who Brian Posehn is. He was a cast member on the Sarah Silverman program, and he played Brian, one of the two gay guys on the series. And he was also in Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, where he played the pastor that was marrying Reed and Sue. And he also did a voiceover in on the show Symbiotic Titan that was on Cartoon Network. Cartoon Network, this is getting off the subject here, but Cartoon Network needs to bring that series back. So, Jenny Tartakovsky, Brian Andrews, Paul Ruddish, or any other Cartoon Network executives, if you're watching this, come on, let's do this. Let's bring it back. Such a great show. Okay, back to the subject at hand. In number 20, Brian Posehn and Jerry Duggan have pretty much made it pretty much had a knack for making fun of the 80s, 70s, and now they're making fun of the 60s. and it's such a great book. It's such a hilarious book. And Jerry Duggan, one thing about him, he's also a writer on Attack of the Show, and he also reads the next book that I'm going to talk about that I bought today. But anyway, right now, as you all know, Deadpool has a deceased Shield member's mind inside of his, and he's on a relentless mission to try to find a new body for her since she was killed. But like I said before, it's a great book. If anyone who wants to read comics, that's a good book to read. I mean, it's great. Now, speaking of Jerry Duggan, up next is Thor number 11. This is the first. This is the day. This is the first issue that Jerry Duggan writes. This is the great issue. I've yet to read number 10, which was the 100th issue of Nova overall. Although this I think this is the second or third series of Nova. I've yet to read that, but as soon as I do, I'll keep you up to speed in a later episode. Up next is Fantastic Four number 15. And they're still off planet. They're still time traveling. So, a while back, about a few years ago rather, Mr. Fantastic ended up finding other versions of him from alternate timelines. And now they're going to find out firsthand what happens when they end up with a whole bunch of Doctor Dooms from alternate timelines. So it's not good. It's not looking good. I mean, their powers are either becoming more unstable than the molecules in their suit, or they're already or in the Thing's case, they're already gone. Up next is X-Men number 8. And you're probably all wondering who in the world is that, Vic? I'll tell you who this is. This is Monet. She was a member of both Generation X and X Factor teams, which are both related to the X-Men in some ways. And she is probably one of the ultimate mutants in Marvel. She has flight, super speed, super strength, telekinesis, and telepathy. And she has a very bad attitude and very bad behavior problems, which have showed in the issues of X-Men and of X Factor and Generation X. Well, she becomes a member of the X-Men, but I'm quite sure that Storm, Psylocke, Rogue, Kitty Pryde, Rachel Gray, and Jubilee will not put up with any of her garbage. I mean, X Factor did. But that's only because she had super strength, and if they did try to do something, she'd probably kick their behinds. But I'm quite sure Rogue's not going to take any of it if no one else will. Okay, up next is All New X-Men number 20. Now, there's X-23. Now, the last time she was seen was the very last issue of Avengers Arena, where healing factors starting to kick back in after she was destroyed. Well, actually, she was getting beat up by some other members of the Avengers Academy. Well, she finally recovers and joins up with Cyclops' group of X-Men, and as you can see, she's making out with Cyclops from the past. Of course, he's part of the 5 original X-Men who are time displaced and can't go back to their correct time. And let me tell you something about X-23 that a lot of folks don't know. X-23 was actually created for the series X-Men Evolution that came out about 13 years ago. They created her to be a clone of Wolverine, But the only different, she has all Wolverine's powers. She has a healing factor that slows her aging, and she has claws that come out of her hands. But there are only two claws out of each hand. There's not three like Wolverine. But she does have a third claws to come out, but they're out of her feet. And let me tell you, her first when Marvel finally brought her to the comics, one of the first things she did in the first issue, in the first book she was in, she carved the mess out of Wolverine's face with those claws that came out of her feet. All right. Up next are both Superior Spider-Man numbers 23 and 24. These are part 2 and part 3 of the Darkest Hours series, respectively. I still haven't gotten a chance to read number 22 because I want to read the rest of the Venom series before I read Superior Spider-Man. Now, keep in mind, Venom, the series just ended, and I'm missing an issue, which is number 41, and there are 43 issues, and I want to go ahead and read this so when I start, because that way when I start reading Superior Spider-Man number 22, won't be wondering, wait, what? How'd that happen? But anyway, the book is, I mean, the story arc pretty much is Spider-Man versus Venom. Like, I mean, nothing new. Well, anyway, it's new for for Otto Octavius, who is inside the mind of Peter Parker. I mean, inside the body of Peter Parker right now. Okay, up next is Green Lantern Guardians number 26. White Lantern is continuing his journey through the cosmos and coming up on trouble along the way. Um, as you all may know, in the Green Lantern Corps think that he's dead. The Guardians found out and thought he was dead at first until he came out of the Source Wall in Green Lantern Annual number 2, and the Guardians had decided, okay, nobody must know that you're alive, not yet. So they sent him on a new journey, and like I said, he's coming up on some trouble along the way. And last is Supergirl number 17. This is the debut of the New 52 version of Lobo. Now, for all of you who are unfamiliar with Lobo, he is an intergalactic bounty hunter who has been around the DCU for some time. And he's come to Earth to, I don't know if he wants Superman but judging by this cover, he's going after Supergirl. Let's hope she can hold her own. But, she's Kryptonian. She can handle it. I'm sure. I'm sure it won't end too badly for Lobo. But anyway, that's 17 that I bought today, bringing the total to 6,047. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's show, and there's one more thing that I want to talk about that I forgot to talk about in the Victor Rant segment. There's still some casting being done in the sequel to the Man of Steel movie that's coming out in 2015. There have been rumors that Joaquin Phoenix may play the role of Lex Luthor. I have serious mixed feelings about that. Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. Joaquin Phoenix played the mess out of Johnny Cash in Walk the Line. He was amazing. But at the same time, I really can't imagine. I can't imagine him being bald. I mean, I just can't. It doesn't look right. If they weren't trying to recast if they didn't try to redo anything, I'd prefer Kevin Spacey. He was the only thing good in Superman Returns when it came out back in 2006. I mean, come on, he played the role of Lex Luthor just like J.K. Simmons played the role of J. Jonah Jameson in the Spider-Man movies that came out in '02, '04, and '07. So Warner Brothers, why mess with a good thing? I mean, come on. All right. And if you guys have anything to you want to chime in on that, then feel free. I'll leave my as always. I'll leave my information on during the end credits. Oh, and just leave any information, any questions, any comments, any concerns, any suggestions for the show. I mean, I'm still waiting, guys. I've only gotten probably about 6 or 7 suggestions, and this is the 11th episode. Look, I'm not like Louis C.K. I'm not going. I'm just because it's my show. I'm not going to turn a deaf ear just because of it. I don't do that at all. Oh, if you like, oh, I hope you like the music that was playing in the background. It was Spyro Gyra's. It was from Spyro. Spyro Gyra is from their 2008 album entitled "A Night Before Christmas." Of course, Spyro Gyra is one of my favorite jazz groups, and I listen to them as well as any other music while I'm reading. It helps me to relax, but sometimes it helps me to relax too much because there are times where I've read Spyro. I mean, I've read some books and had Spyro Gyra playing, and I have fallen asleep. But that's all the time we have. We have one more episode. Like I said earlier, it's going to be on Christmas Eve. I found out there's going to be some books coming out on Christmas Eve, and so I'm going to jump at the chance and buy those books. Well, yeah. Anyway, that's all the time I have. I'm Victor Nunley. I'm the Comic Hero. See you next time. Till then, be safe, be blessed, be a hero. And if I don't hear back from you until after next week, Merry Christmas.